Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good to see you again, Chairman Jovanovic. The Export-Import Bank plays an important role in supporting American jobs and ensuring exporters can compete globally. In fact, there's a couple of Nebraska companies, Reinke Irrigation and Deschler and Preferred Popcorn and Chapman that are really helped by the program there. So thank you for that. And for states like Nebraska, that means supporting agricultural producers, equipment manufacturers, such as the ones I just mentioned, industrial exporters who compete in a tough global marketplace. But today, those markets are increasingly shaped not by fair competition, but by state-directed financing from Communist China. Communist China is our country's greatest existential external threat. Communist China has and continues to deploy state-backed export financing at a scale that outpaces the U.S. In 2024 alone, Communist China's official export credit agencies provided over $23 billion in medium and long-term financing compared to roughly $5.9 billion from the U.S. If you were to take the average of China's medium and long-term export financing from 2015 to 2024, it would be $25.31 billion a year. Over that same period, the U.S. averaged $2.91 billion per year. The EXIM Bank's 2025 Competitiveness Report to Congress confirmed these results. The report also shares that U.S. exporter and banking communities continue to view EXIM Bank as not competitive in the medium and long-term financing arena. Chairman Jovanovic, I know you haven't been in the role for very long, but how do you explain the recent low ratings on competitiveness from the export community and our stagnant levels of medium and long-term financing over the years?
China just spent 4 times what America did on export financing last year. 4 times. $23 billion versus $6 billion. And if you zoom out to the last decade, the average is even uglier. China at $25 billion a year. The United States at under $3 billion. That is not a competition. That is one country financing the future while the other files paperwork. This hearing happened on March 26th, when EXIM Bank Chairman John Jovanovic sat before the Senate Banking Committee. The senator pressing him hardest was Pete Ricketts of Nebraska, former governor, heir to the TD Ameritrade fortune, and a man who calls China our country's greatest existential external threat, with the same regularity most people check the weather. The agency Jovanovic runs, EXIM, exists for one reason: give American exporters the financial backing to win deals against state-subsidized foreign competitors. But Congress let the bank flatline from 2015 to 2019. No quorum, no board meetings, no deals over $10 million. While EXIM was on life support, 30 new export credit agencies launched worldwide. China did not take a single day off. Now EXIM's authorization expires in 9 months. Jovanovic has been on the job for 6, and the numbers say he is losing.
First off, I think it's really important to note that for quite a long time, EXIM has been hobbled by first not having a quorum for 4 years. And I know that sounds like it was a long time ago, but we're just starting to clear the scar tissue from not having a clear authorization and not giving the market a very clear signal that we're here to stay. That's number one. Number two, what I learned in my first 100 days, and a lot of this was actually informed by the very helpful book that you shared with me when we were together in your chamber about Six Sigma, was really about bringing a data-driven approach and promoting accountability and transparency. And so what I found, Senator Ricketts, is people want to win. And I manage a building that's filled with mission-driven people, whether you're a political appointee or you're a career employee. And so giving them a very clear sense of what a win looks like, giving them a very clear set of priorities, and pushing and working together has really made a difference. And so whether it's Project Vault, which is a very key puzzle piece, and we hope a beginning to a whole set of solutions to address supply chain insecurity, de-risk our supply chains, create markets that are free, fair, functioning again, and that's critical. America wins, U.S. companies win, our allies thrive when we have markets that are free, fair, and functioning, and that's what we want to help promote.
Okay, great.
Ricketts asked a simple question. Why are your competitiveness ratings so low? Jovanovic's answer was a masterclass in saying nothing. Scar tissue, Six Sigma, mission-driven people who want to win. None of that is a number. None of that closes a $23 billion gap. But the real problem Jovanovic did not volunteer came from his own agency's inspector general. Congress created the China and Transformational Exports Program in 2019 and told EXIM to compete across 10 critical technology sectors: AI, quantum, semiconductors, biotech, renewable energy, and 5 more. The mandate came with $27 billion in reserved authority. What did EXIM actually do? It piled almost everything into 2 buckets: wireless communications and critical minerals. 8 sectors got table scraps. 3 years into the program, total lending sat at $500 million out of a $27 billion authorization. That is less than 2%. Meanwhile, China's Belt and Road Initiative has financed hundreds of billions in infrastructure across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. American companies are not losing these contracts because their products are worse. They are losing because nobody is writing the check.
Well, outside needing our help on reauthorization, how are you planning course correction at EXIM Bank to boost your competitiveness in this area?
It's already begun. And so what we've done is we've actually taken down a lot of silos. It's very difficult to eliminate those errors and reduce that variability across outcomes if you do. We very much need the hiring authority that we're discussing here today. It's mission critical. And finally, what we really need to do is send that very clear signal, because we've studied in preparation for not just this hearing, but for our proposal, how recent reauthorizations have affected the bank's operations. And any confusion or any concern that the bank won't be reauthorized in a timely and smooth manner really sets a chill through the market, and people just put pencils down with us, Senator Ricketts, and we can't afford that. We've got a $71 billion pipeline, 45,000 jobs at stake that we want to help support. So many of those small businesses. We just want to keep doing what we're doing.
Great.
Jovanovic just said something every senator in that room needed to hear. When companies think EXIM might not get reauthorized, they stop calling. They stop submitting applications. They go to Beijing or Berlin or Seoul, where the money is guaranteed. He called it a chill through the market. That is diplomatic language for a self-inflicted wound. China does not put its export credit agencies through a renewal vote every few years. Neither does South Korea or Italy, which has quietly become one of the most aggressive export financiers in the world. America is the only major economy that periodically threatens to shut down its own trade weapon during a trade war. Now, context matters here. Ricketts is not a disinterested observer. He is running for re-election in 2026 against Dan Osborne, a Navy veteran and union mechanic whose entire campaign is built on the argument that billionaire politicians like Ricketts do not represent working people. Ricketts is worth over $200 million. His family's TD Ameritrade stake alone made them billions when Charles Schwab bought the company for $22 billion. When he name-drops Nebraska irrigation companies and popcorn makers, he is campaigning. The China threat is real, the EXIM gap is real, but so is the election calendar.
The time remaining, just real briefly on CTEP, the EXIM Bank Inspector General's 2024 review of CTEP shared that the disproportionate share of EXIM's activity has been focused on 2 of the 10 buckets, wireless communications and critical minerals. We've talked about the importance of critical minerals, but there's also semiconductors, biotech, quantum. We just talked a little bit from Senator Kim about quantum AI. Can you just quickly give us a status and the update on some of those other areas and how you're going to focus resources on those so that we can make progress there as well?
We're aggressively pursuing all 10. But what we've learned in short order is that you need the subject matter experts to properly pursue those.
So it gets back to the hiring authority to get the right people.
They're complex. You can't fake it. You can't learn it on the fly, and especially when you're putting hard-earned taxpayer dollars at work.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Here is what this hearing revealed. The chairman of America's Export Credit Agency sat in front of Congress and said 3 things. 1, we do not have enough people to do the job you gave us. 2, we concentrated our China program in 2 out of 10 sectors because we lacked the expertise for the rest. 3, if you do not reauthorize us cleanly and quickly, the market will treat us like we are already dead. That is a 5-alarm fire wrapped in polite Senate testimony. The numbers are brutal, and they are not improving. China averaged $25 billion a year in export financing over the past decade. The United States averaged under 3 billion. EXIM's own competitiveness report confirms that American exporters and banks view the agency as uncompetitive in medium and long-term financing. That is not China's assessment. That is America's own export community saying the system is broken. Ricketts introduced the Match Act this week to tighten semiconductor export controls against China. That targets one problem. But export controls only work if American companies can actually win the business. And right now, EXIM cannot staff the deals, cannot diversify beyond 2 technology sectors, and cannot guarantee its own existence past December. $71 billion in active transactions, 45,000 American jobs tied to the pipeline, and the entire operation hinges on whether Congress can pass a reauthorization bill before the clock runs out. Again. If this breakdown gave you clarity on what is actually happening with US-China economic competition, subscribe and turn on notifications. Tell me in the comments, should Congress permanently authorize EXIM, or does the renewal process keep the agency honest? Like, share, and I will see you next time.